One of the biblical wonders of our world is facing an almighty crisis. The Dead Sea is drying up at a very alarming rate.
The Dead Sea is receding at an alarming rate. Multiple canals and pipelines were proposed to reduce its recession.
One of the most mystifying wonders of our biblical world is quietly unraveling, and hardly anyone is paying attention. The Dead Sea, once a marvel of creation, a natural sanctuary, a healing place, a mirror to the heavens. Today, crisis. Its waters are retreating, the shores collapsing. Its very name, dead, is being challenged by a miracle no one can explain. In a land long thought to be the final resting place of salt and silence, something is stirring. Fish, living fish, are swimming in pools near the lowest place on earth. Not fossils, not myths, life, breathing, swimming, thriving where nothing should survive. And for those who know the ancient scriptures, it all sounds eerily familiar, because over 2,600 years ago, a prophet in exile named Ezekiel saw a vision. Temple, a river, waters flowing down into the salt sea, and the sea healed. What was once impossible is now undeniable. Is the earth whispering something to us? Are the ancient prophecies coming alive? A sea in decline, warning signs ignored. There's a strange silence now in the valley of the Dead Sea. A silence so loud, it echoes. Where laughter once rang from tourists floating on salty waves, now warning signs stand. Danger, sinkholes, unstable ground, entry forbidden. The once vibrant shores are crumbling. Abandoned resorts lie in ruin, their windows broken, their pools dry. Where once healing flowed, desolation now reigns. The Dead Sea is dying. It's receding at an alarming rate, over 1 meter per year. Once fed by the mighty Jordan River, its lifeline has been severed. Dams, agriculture, development, water is siphoned away before it can ever reach this ancient basin. And with its retreat, the ground collapses. Sinkholes, hundreds of them, have opened like mouths in the earth, swallowing land, roads, and even dreams. This isn't just environmental degradation. It is a slow unraveling of something sacred. The earth is groaning, and yet in the cracks of collapse, something holy is being born. The miraculous return, life in the sinkholes, not far from the ruins, not far from the salt-stained rocks. A whisper rises. Fresh water is bubbling up inside the sinkholes, not brackish or saline, clear, clean, sweet. And inside these impossible pools, fish, living, swimming fish. Biologists are stunned. The Dead Sea, with salt levels over 10 times that of normal seawater, has never supported visible life. No algae, no frogs, no fish. But now, life is returning to death. Some say underground aquifers may have broken through. Others speak of tectonic shifts or unknown springs. But no explanation fully fits, because it's not just water appearing. It's ecosystems forming. Reeds are growing. Microbes are multiplying. Insects are gathering. Birds are returning. The land is breathing again. And the question rises, why now? Why here? And why does it sound like something that was written long ago? The prophecy of Ezekiel, a river that heals. More than 2,600 years ago, in Babylonian exile, the prophet Ezekiel saw a vision. A temple stood in Jerusalem, and from it a river flowed. First a trickle, then a stream, then a mighty river. It flowed eastward, down through the desert, into the sea, the salt sea, and as it entered, the impossible happened. The Dead Sea was healed. Life bloomed along its banks. Fish of every kind filled its waters. Trees bore fruit in every season. The waters made everything new. Ezekiel 47 verses 8 to 9 declares, "These waters go down into the Arabah and enter the sea. When the water flows into the sea, the water will become fresh. Wherever the river goes, every living creature that swarms will live, and there will be very many fish." For millennia, people saw this vision as symbolic, a spiritual allegory, a poetic metaphor. But now, the metaphor is moving, the vision is swelling, and the fish are swimming in pools near the Dead Sea. What if Ezekiel wasn't just describing a metaphor? What if he was foreseeing our moment? What if the vision was not for his generation, but for ours? Another witness, Zechariah and the living waters. Ezekiel wasn't alone. The prophet Zechariah, standing in the ruins of post-exilic Jerusalem, also saw a future no one could imagine. Zechariah 14 verse 8 says, "On that day living waters shall flow out from Jerusalem, half of them to the eastern sea and half of them to the western sea. It shall continue in summer as in winter. The eastern sea, the Dead Sea, the western sea, the Mediterranean. Water, constant, living, never ceasing." And he adds, "The Lord will be king over the whole earth. On that day, there will be one Lord, and his name the only name." The presence of living water in prophecy always pointed to something more than rain, pointed to God, to healing, to renewal, to the reign of righteousness. So now, as living waters rise in the very sinkholes of judgment, is heaven whispering again? Are the rivers of prophecy starting to flow? The ancient valley, from Eden to ashes. Before it was called dead, this land was called beautiful. In Genesis 13 verse 10, the region of the Jordan Valley was described as like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. It was paradise. But within that same lush land stood Sodom and Gomorrah, cities of wickedness, cities that turned from righteousness, cities that faced judgment. And so fire fell. The Valley of Eden became a valley of ash. What was once a garden became a grave. Salt crusted the land. Life vanished, and the sea became known as dead. For thousands of years, it bore the scar of sin and the weight of warning. But the God of the Bible is not just the judge. He is the Redeemer. He heals what was broken. He revives what was buried. He brings life where no one expects. If the Dead Sea was once Eden, and then judgment fell, what does it mean that life is returning? It means the story isn't over. More than earth, restoration of hearts. Ezekiel's prophecies weren't only about rivers. They were about restoration. In Ezekiel 36 verses 24 to 26, the Lord speaks, "I will gather you from all the countries and bring you back into your own land. I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you." This is a dual restoration, land and people, soil and soul. Israel, reborn in 1948, fulfilled the national return. But now, perhaps we are witnessing the spiritual one. As the land blooms, as fish return, as waters stir in forgotten places, so too God is calling hearts back. He is healing more than geography. He is awakening a people, restoring a nation, preparing the earth and the soul for what comes next. Fulfilled before, the prophecy of Tyre. Some doubt prophecy. They say it's vague. Symbolic, lucky guesses, but history has a memory. In Ezekiel 26, the prophet predicted the destruction of the mighty city of Tyre. He said nations would come against it. Its stones and timber would be thrown into the sea. It would be scraped clean like a bare rock. Centuries passed. Then came Alexander the Great. He built a causeway into the sea using the ruins of old Tyre, exactly as Ezekiel foretold. To this day, that causeway remains. Prophecy fulfilled, literally. And if that prophecy came to pass, why not this one? Why not the healing of the Dead Sea? Why not life in a place long called dead? Why not water flowing, as God once showed a prophet in exile? If God fulfilled Ezekiel 26, He can fulfill Ezekiel 47. He already is. The final chapter, the Lord is there. The last verse of Ezekiel speaks not of rivers, but of presence. Ezekiel 48 verse 35 declares, "And the name of the city from that day shall be, the Lord is there." Not just water, not just healing, but God dwelling among His people. It's the end game of all prophecy, the return of divine presence. And in Revelation 22, we see it again. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb. The river, the tree of life, the healing of the nations. From Ezekiel to Revelation, from the desert valley to the throne of heaven, the story is consistent. God brings life. He brings healing. He brings Himself. And as waters rise in the sinkholes, as fish swim where they shouldn't, as the salt gives way to reeds, He is speaking. Are we listening? Conclusion: watch the waters. This is no longer just a scientific curiosity. This is no longer just an environmental disaster. The Dead Sea is a prophetic signpost. It is a whisper in the earth, a symbol transforming before our eyes, a picture of judgment giving way to mercy. The prophets saw it. The scriptures spoke of it. And now we are watching it unfold. Let us be watchful. Let us be prayerful. Let us draw near, because sometimes prophecy is not shouted. It is whispered in the soft splash of a fish, in the rising of reeds, in the gentle bubbling of a freshwater spring in the lowest place on earth. Place once dead, now alive, a voice once silent, now singing, and a world once dry, now preparing for the return of the King. Jesus is coming soon.